Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. Before we get into it, remember to hit that like button, please, if you haven't done so already, and do subscribe if you're new. Also, we already are starting to get some member exclusive content out there. So if you do become a member and hit that join button, any requests for videos that you do put forward in the community tab for members, I will do my best to get that content out there as long as it's reasonable. And so the first request is out. Anyway, let's get into this. So ATP Halle Open, and it's the quarterfinals. It's Stefanos Tsitsipas versus Nick Kyrgios. What a quarterfinal, right? Fitting of a Grand Slam, no doubt. Quarterfinal, and this is a 250, so really, really great to see. It is a stacked tournament, Halle. I know Queens, of course, is going on as well. We had Casper Ruud get upset today against Peniston, the Brit, so that was a massive upset. But I will be going there on Saturday. But I have to say, I'm a bit jealous of Halle because the just the turnout and the players on show definitely better than Queens this year, interestingly. And I have a feeling that Stefanos Tsitsipas is going to actually be tested more than Nick Kyrgios in this match, and I'll tell you why. So we're going to break it down. I'm going to go through, I guess, what each player may have to face in terms of combating their opponent's weapons. Will they have success doing so? What might they struggle with? And then also, excuse my hay fever, look into, of course, you know, how each player plays on the surface, because that is a massive factor when it comes to these two, I think. If this was a clay court, Tsitsipas is a huge favorite, like absolutely huge favorite. But it's not. It's a grass court. It's the complete opposite of a clay court. It's quick, low bouncing, and Kyrgios loves the grass. The head-to-head, by the way, between the two is 2-1 to Kyrgios, interestingly as well. I mean, he's got a very good head-to-head against a lot of the top players, to be fair. And let's talk about Tsitsipas first and his, let's say, pretty average record on grass. So his record on grass is 16-16. How ridiculous is that? I mean, that is unbelievable. I mean, look, he's only 23 years of age, but he has struggled. I mean, even the first round against Benjamin Bonzi, who's a good player, but not really a grass quarter. Won 7-6, 1-6, 6-3. And look, he hasn't won consecutive matches on the surface since 2019. So that's on grass. I have to say, it is I think, a surprising fact, that because he's such a talent, he's got a massive first serve. Hits his spots, is so effective on the surface, the forehand as well. We know how good that is. But there's some glaring holes in his game, which I've discussed in the past. Of course, the backhand, not just from an offensive point of view, but a defensive point of view. Not able really to hit the backhand slice as effectively as he could. The transition from, I guess, serve to volley. He's a good volleyer at the net, but because of his toss, doesn't really get the momentum to move forward as effectively as he could to the net, as quickly as he could, to close down the angles and close down any good returns or passing shots. So yeah, I think those are just a few things. And of course, on the backhand side as well, doesn't like the lower bouncing ball. Actually prefers it at, say, shoulder height. That would prefer that much more than that lower bouncing ball. So a few issues there, of course. And also the movement. Doesn't move as well on the surface as even Nick Kyrgios, I don't think. He's not as comfortable moving on it, that's for sure. That comes with time, though, and practice, of course. So we'll see. We'll see. Of course, both players, by the way, losing to Andy Murray and Stuttgart last week, interestingly. So Tsitsipas won his first round against Dominic Stricker, and then second match of the campaign, of course, lost to Andy Murray. Similarly, Kyrgios lost to Andy Murray as well. Both lost in straight sets. Both lost first set tiebreaker. Very, very similar results. This is going to be And I would imagine, and I might be wrong, Kyrgios is the favorite. He is. He's more comfortable on grass. He's made multiple quarterfinals or better on grass in multiple years. I mean, even his form coming into the tournament, he's made a quarterfinal, at least a quarterfinal in 3 of the 5 tournaments he's entered in these 6 months of 2022 season. He's only lost to Daniel Medvedev in the second round of the Australian Open, Yannick Sinner in the round of 16 at Miami. So don't sleep on his form, for one. But two, he just loves the surface. He said it today that he loves the surface. He's really at home here. He thinks he's top 5, top 10 on the surface. And I kind of agree with him. I think he's definitely top 10. Top 5 might be pushing it slightly. I mean, obviously, you got Nadal, Djokovic. I think you have to put Berrettini in there. Got to put Felix in there. Alcaraz, I guess, is a question mark. But if Alcaraz does well, then he's probably in there. No, we'll see. We'll see. Right. What does Kyrgios need to do against Tsitsipas? Needs to make a lot of first serves. Simple as that. Makes a lot of first serves. Tsitsipas is not getting any look into the Kyrgios service games. He's not going to get any chances. I mean, he's not going to open up any break points on the Kyrgios serve unless Kyrgios does something ridiculous and starts kind of spraying the ball left, right, and center in the ground strokes, but in the rally, sorry. But to be honest with you, if he's serving well, it's not even going to get to that point. Like, Tsitsipas is not even going to make the return most of the time, and even if he does, it'll be short. Kyrgios will put it away on the 1+ shot. So that's kind of how I view that dynamic, honestly, because Tsitsipas' returning has already been pretty suspect in the past even. But on grass, even more so. It's a quicker surface, and just his block backhand return gets exposed. So Kyrgios will look to go to the backhand side of Tsitsipas. He'll go out wide on the ad side, down a tee on the juice side. He'll expose it. He might even try and go out wide with a kind of shorter slice serve and then come to the net to serve and volley. That might be a mistake onto the forehand of Tsitsipas, who has a lot of variation, and I think it's very dynamic, that forehand, in comparison to most people's forehands, and especially in comparison to his backhand, which is a little bit one-dimensional. So interesting to see if he does try and, I guess, back himself against the Tsitsipas forehand, which in my eyes is a bit of a mistake. But knowing Kyrgios, he'll be brave enough, and he'll get some success from it, no doubt. So that's an interesting one. He doesn't want to get involved in the forehand exchanges. Forget it. We know how big Kyrgios' forehand can be, but Tsitsipas is definitely more reliable. I would say anyway. The one thing I'd say is, of course, the surface thing and the confidence, right? So I say it's more reliable, but on the surface, I don't know. I don't know is the honest answer. But if I was Kyrgios, I would try and drag him into backhand to backhand exchanges for sure. Kyrgios' backhand is way more reliable. It's much better than the Tsitsipas backhand on the surface. He's a lot flatter. It will be really difficult for Tsitsipas to handle going cross court. And I think he'll try and go forehand down the line as well a lot. Of course, Kyrgios to try and access the backhand, and he'll go hard at the backhand. I tell you what, he will go hard at the backhand, and Tsitsipas won't be able to really run around the backhand much because Kyrgios hits flat. Especially on the backhand side, he hits flat. On the forehand, he's got a bit more kind of, again, a bit more variation on the forehand, but he can also go flat down the line with a lot of power as well. I mean, some of the forehand winners he's hit in the past, over 110 miles per hour. I mean, ridiculous power. So we'll see if he's turned on and switched on Kyrgios, and he seems to be loving life and just a surface. It's going to be, it's going to be a really, really tough match for Tsitsipas to win. Now, how can Tsitsipas win? Now, I think there's a few factors. I think he has to serve well. On the grass, there's such a big emphasis on serving well, especially when you've got as potent a serve as a Kyrgios or a Tsitsipas. Now, Tsitsipas needs to make a lot of first serves there because second serve is not really good enough to hurt Kyrgios, and Kyrgios should be able to capitalize on the second serve, whereas I feel like Kyrgios will be able to get more free points on his second serve. One, it's kind of around the 100-mile-per-hour mark, and he does try and go for it. And to be fair, it's very, very serviceable. And he does manage to kind of get away with a few free points on it. For Tsitsipas, I don't really see that on the second serve as much. Not on the grass anyways. And I think Kyrgios will step in and he'll get some success on the second serve return. So I would imagine Tsitsipas will have to have a high first serve percentage of first serves in even. And also not just a high percentage of first serves in, but a high percentage of first serve points won. And that means hitting his spots. It also means coming to the net as well at times and trying to serve and volley. The issue he's going to have is where does he serve? Does he go into the backhand of Kyrgios or the forehand? I don't think either is weaker than the other person. I think they're kind of equally as strong. So if I was him, I would try and drag Kyrgios out and kind of get him into awkward positions where he's having to stretch. He's going to having to kind of hit running forehands. That will mean potentially going for, like as I said, shorter slice serve out wide, say on the juice side. It's a bit of a risk because he could just hit a win around the around the net post. To be honest with you, Kyrgios, but that's that's obviously a ridiculous shot to hit. So dragging him out is a good option. Coming to the net, but then he needs to transition well. How's his transition game looking after when I was talking about the toss, where he doesn't really come into it? I'm not sure. And to volley, it's easy to say just volley, but Kyrgios is a really good player at passing people at the net. Not just passing them left and right, but also passing them by volley as well. So he can do it in any different kind of way, which is pretty impressive. So as can Tsitsipas, though, to be honest with you. So I think it's going to be a really entertaining match. I think there's going to be many long points. If I'm honest with you, I think both have got huge forehands. Huge off the forehand wings, and even Kyrgios the backhand is pretty big as well. Tsitsipas won't be able to kind of stick with the backhand defensively or offensively with Kyrgios for very long. So I imagine if he does get hammered on that side, again, the point's not going to last very long. So I would say that either way, it's going to be a pretty quick 2 or 3 sets. I assume we're going to get a tiebreaker, at least one. And I guess I don't know who's going to take it because both haven't been able to convert in their last tournament against Murray. Although Stefanos Tsitsipas, of course, played one in the first round, took it 7-6. It's an interesting one. It's a really, really interesting one. I'm not 100% sure how Kyrgios is going to feel mentally. And I think if he's mentally fine, I think he wins. I do think he can make a deep run at Wimbledon. I'm not so sure about Tsitsipas. I think Tsitsipas has the tools to do it, but there's still some things to iron out, I feel, with him on the grass. So we'll see. We'll see. But for me, Nick Kyrgios gets it done. And I think he's actually going to do it in straight sets. I think he'll do it in straight sets. I think he'll try and blitz him. And I reckon he'll succeed. So, look, I could be completely wrong. I absolutely love Nick Kyrgios, though. He's my second favorite player, I have to be honest with you. But I also love Stefanos Tsitsipas in terms of the way that he plays. I don't really know either as a person, but as players, love both their styles. Tsitsipas is exciting to watch. And I'd like to see him do well on the grass because it's a surface that you feel he should have success on, but maybe hasn't had as much success as you'd expect early on in his career. And it's just a matter of time. And look, he was very, very ambitious and said he wanted to get 1,000 points going to Wimbledon, which would have meant winning Stuttgart, winning, this tournament in Halle as well. That's not going to happen because obviously he didn't win Stuttgart, but he's got a good chance here. If he beats Kyrgios, there's a statement made, and people will then kind of sit up and take note, like myself, that, oh, he's a real threat on the grass. So let's see. Let me know your predictions in the comment section, and very much looking forward to it. Guys, thank you so much. Stay safe and well. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Also, leave a rating or review if you're a podcast listener or watcher, and we'll see you on the next video.